Hello there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today for a new video. And I'm going to be bringing you a technique that I have loved for years, and it's something that can be used with almost any type of background stamp. I happen to be using the Repeating Rainbows background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This is something that I've wanted to use and I haven't had a chance to, so I was excited to use this particular background with this technique. I'm also going to be using a few other Simon Says Stamp products throughout this project, so I hope you'll join me in creating this very colorful Repeating Rainbows card. So I'm going to take the Repeating Rainbows cling first, and I'm going to put this into my large MISTI tool so that I can go ahead and start stamping it. Now this happens to be a stamp that I designed for Simon Says Stamp, and I designed it so that you could easily repeat these rainbows across a larger background or card because of the way that they are arranged from top to bottom. All you have to do is mask off the top portion of your rainbows and then restamp the entire background across your project. So it's a really great and versatile background. I'm going to go ahead and take some embossing powder here and sprinkle it onto the embossing ink that I stamped with the Repeating Rainbows background onto some watercolor paper. It's very hard to see right now, but I'm melting that embossing powder, and then I'm going to have this beautiful white embossed rainbow pattern on my watercolor paper. And I happen to be using Strathmore watercolor paper. It's one of my favorites. I've chosen a selection of Karin Markers here, and I'm going to start scribbling them across my background. The embossing powder is going to resist this ink that I'm applying over top of the rainbows, which is what makes this technique so cool. When you have a water-based medium like these Karin Markers or other watercolors or distress inks, the embossing powder resists that ink, so it leaves that gorgeous white pattern or whatever color of embossing powder you used to emboss your image. It's going to resist that, and you're going to get this gorgeous pattern showing through the beautiful colors that you add on top. Now I happen to be using a rainbow color scheme here, but you could totally change this up and just use a few colors if you didn't want a full rainbow, or you could customize it to your favorite colors. After I let the first layer of color dry, I did go back in and scribble more color on top of each section of rainbow colors, just so that way I could enhance the colors and also give a smoother blend. I liked the hard edges in spots, but I wanted it a little bit more smoother in other areas. So by scribbling over it with more color and blending it out again with my watercolor brush, that's giving me a really nice smooth transition between the colors with just a few harder areas in between. Karin Markers are reactive, so I am going to go ahead and sprinkle some water over top of this and then lift it off with a dry paper towel. You may or may not be able to see it right now, but there are some water splatters in that background. The other thing I'm going to add are splatters of Shimmer Mist. This happens to be the Pearl Shimmer Mist from Brutus Monroe. It's an absolutely stunning shimmer mist. I just love it so much. I've been using it lately on a lot of projects. Check out how it catches the light when it dries. It's just so pretty. I have some white and black cardstock here from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to die cut the white with the small script trio die from Simon Says Stamp. My cat Oscar thought he needed to be part of today's video. He's sitting in the line of vision of my desk because he was interested in the birds that were outside on the bird feeder and in the yard, and so he was hanging out with me, and of course he thought he needed to make a cameo in today's video. So he's my little helper. He's hanging out in the window now as I'm going ahead and layering up my thanks die cuts. So I've die cut that white cardstock 3 times from that thanks greeting that's in the small script trio die set, and I'm just going to start stacking these up with some spray adhesive. I am using a box to catch that spray. Typically I would try to spray this outside, but for the video I wanted to make sure you could see what I was doing, so I did spray some of these inside, and I just had the windows open to help keep the ventilation. I'm going to put this thanks onto what I'm calling a sentiment strip. It's a piece of black cardstock to mat this greeting, and it's about 1 inch wide, and I cut it down to the length that I wanted for my particular sentiment. And now I'm going to take a Simon Says Stamp basic rectangle die and die cut my background so that it's a little bit smaller than an A2 card, and it'll mat nicely with some foam tape. I chose some sequins from the Simon Says Stamp Galaxy Sequin Mix, and I'm gluing these around my background, trying to capture some of those colored sequins in the colored areas that match. So for instance, a blue one would be in the blue area of the watercoloring, red would be in the red area. With a bit of foam tape, I'm going to attach my watercolor background on top of my card. And I don't have the sentiment fully adhered down yet. I do have my black sentiment strip attached down, but the sentiment itself has not been glued yet. And that's what I'm doing right now. I just put a few dots of glossy accents just because that was what I had handy at the time. And I'm going to glue that straight down onto my sentiment strip. And that is going to complete this very colorful, sparkly rainbow card using the Simon Says Stamp Repeating Rainbows background stamp. I just love how this card turned out. It was fun, it was happy, I was in the mood to make something rainbow and colorful, so this was the perfect project, and it really didn't take that much time to do. This was a project that I worked on over the weekend, and I just had a blast playing around with my markers and coloring and just having a good time crafting. So I hope you were inspired by today's project using some of these awesome products from Simon Says Stamp and this embossed resist technique. Don't forget, if you don't have Karin markers, you can use any other water reactive medium, whether it's regular watercolors, distress inks, you name it. Anything that's water reactive, you can do this technique with the embossed resist. It's a great technique and it's a great way to use your background stamps. If you enjoyed today's video, I hope you give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for additional inspiration. If you're interested in any of the products that I did use today, I have them all linked in the video description below, so be sure to check that out. If you're watching this on my blog, all of the information on this project is down at the bottom of the post. And I thank you all so much for stopping by and spending some time with me today. I'll be back very, very soon with more to share with you all. But until next time, I hope you all have a very happy day. Bye!